The morning light filters through the ancient towering windows of Kensington Palace, casting long geometric shadows across manicured lawns that have witnessed centuries of unspoken histories, silent agreements, and deeply masked personal tribulations. In the world of the British monarchy, a simple calendar date is never just a temporal marker. It is a meticulously orchestrated stage where every public gesture, every carefully timed release of an image, and every calculated silence carries the weight of an empire long past and an institution fighting desperately for its modern survival. On this particular Sunday, as families across the globe gather to celebrate the familiar warmth of Father's Day, the gilded corridors of the royal households are hummed not with simple domestic bliss, but with an underlying current of intense strategic calculation, unspoken rivalries, and an impending storm that threatens to permanently alter the delicate equilibrium established after years of public fractures and deeply personal betrayals. To truly understand the House of Windsor is to understand that they do not communicate in the casual, unfiltered language of ordinary citizens. They communicate through a sophisticated visual lexicon, where a specific choice of attire, the subtle angling of a shoulder, or the deliberate withholding of a smile, speaks volumes more than any official press release ever could. As we begin to peel back the layers of these recent developments, we invite you to embark on this journey into the heart of modern royalty with us. And if you find yourself captivated by the intricate dance of tradition and contemporary tension, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and join our community as we navigate these unfolding chapters of history together. The story that is currently playing out behind palace gates is one of profound psychological complexity, rooted in a past where fathers and sons have traditionally struggled to find a common language, often replacing natural paternal affection with the rigid demands of duty, crown, and country. This historical weight hangs heavily over the present generation, where the ghosts of kings past seem to dictate the terms of engagement between brothers who no longer speak and a monarch caught between the instinctive love of a parent and the cold, unyielding responsibilities of a sovereign who must protect the realm above all else. Consider for a moment the profound legacy of King George VI, a man thrust onto the throne by an unexpected twist of fate, whose severe stammer became a public symbol of his inner torment, a physical manifestation of the immense terror inspired by his own father, King George V. There is a famous, chilling line attributed to that era, a sentiment that perfectly encapsulates the brutal reality of royal upbringing, where a father openly admitted his intention to make his children terrified of him just as he had been terrified of his own sire, establishing a vicious cycle of fear and emotional distance that left deep, permanent scars on the lineage. This rigid, almost militaristic approach to fatherhood has long been the true blueprint of the British monarchy, an environment where vulnerability was viewed as a dangerous flaw and emotional stoicism was elevated to the highest virtue. A tradition that was inherited by Prince Philip and subsequently passed down to King Charles, creating a complex web of difficult relationships that continue to reverberate through the family to this very day. When we look at the official communications radiating from the palace on a day meant for paternal celebration, we are not looking at spontaneous expressions of love, but at carefully curated historical artifacts designed to project a specific narrative of continuity, reconciliation, or perhaps a subtle, dignified defense against external criticisms. The official royal accounts chose to mark the occasion with a poignant, evocative photograph from 1971, capturing a young Prince Charles alongside his father, Prince Philip, both clad in pristine military uniforms at Cranwell. A moment frozen in time that speaks of shared achievements and high expectations, yet masks the famously turbulent and challenging dynamic that defined their actual relationship over the decades. This image, accompanied by a carefully worded caption celebrating all fathers and offering comfort to those missing theirs, serves as a masterclass in royal public relations, presenting an image of flawless unity and touching nostalgia while completely omitting the well-documented friction, the demanding letters, and the intense pressures that Charles famously carried in his breast pocket as a shield against the judgments of the world during his most tumultuous years. Yet, as the sun climbed higher into the sky, The true modern battlefield of the monarchy shifted from these historic archives to the hyper-competitive arena of digital social media, where Kensington Palace unleashed a brand new, never-before-seen photograph that stunned observers with its deliberate departure from casual domesticity. The image, captured by Matt Porteous in the private gardens, features Prince William standing in full, majestic ceremonial dress, wearing the historic uniform of the Welsh Guards, complete with medals gleaming against his chest, the distinguished star sash of the Order of the Garter, and a ceremonial sword resting resolutely at his side, while Princess Charlotte stands beside him. The message attached to this striking visual was intimate and personal, bearing the distinct initials of Catherine, George, Charlotte, and Louis, wishing a happy fatherhood and birthday to the best papa in the world. Yet the visual language of the photograph itself was undeniably institutional, heavy with the symbolism of a future king who is fully prepared to inherit the ultimate responsibility. There was undoubtedly a massive temptation for the Prince of Wales to project an image of effortless accessibility, perhaps a candid shot in casual denim, kicking a football around a sunlit lawn with his children, a genre of royal photography that has traditionally been used to humanize the family and bridge the gap with the public. Instead, the choice to go full military ceremonial, to stand as an unyielding pillar of tradition alongside his daughter, represents a profoundly strategic decision to position himself as the true anchor of continuity, a visual declaration that the legitimate monarchy can seamlessly synthesize the heavy demands of ancient duty with the genuine tenderness of modern family life within a single, powerful frame. This is the visual language of an institution that knows it is under scrutiny, a calculated display of strength and stability designed to reassure a nation that despite the personal health battles and internal fractures currently plaguing the core members, the future of the crown remains secure. Disciplined and unwavering in its commitment to the state, however, this flawless exhibition of traditional royal power was not destined to exist in a vacuum, for across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, in the sun-drenched enclave of California, another household was waiting with impeccable timing to deliver its own radically different visual manifesto. Just a few hours after the world had digested the formal, structured majesty of the Kensington Palace release, the Sussex household dropped an image that felt like a direct, highly calculated antithesis to everything Prince William had just projected to the globe. This counter-narrative, delivered through a soft, informal lens, featured Prince Harry in relaxed, casual attire, surrounded by his children in an environment that championed bare feet, messy hair, and an untamed, natural freedom that seemed to shout to the world that they have successfully escaped the rigid, cold confines of institutional life. The message was sweet, proclaiming how lucky the children were to have him. Yet to seasoned royal observers, the timing and the stark contrast in presentation were nothing short of textbook Sussex positioning. A deliberate attempt to create a powerful curiosity gap and redefine the narrative of what a modern royal family should look like. This unfolding digital duel is merely the opening overture to a much larger, incredibly high-stakes drama that is scheduled to explode into reality this coming July, when the soft focus of social media will be replaced by the harsh, unyielding glare of a full-scale physical return to the United Kingdom. Rumors are already swirling through the historic corridors of London that King Charles, acting against the explicit, deeply held reservations of his eldest son, has made a monumental concession that could completely upend the established order, opening the doors of a royal palace to provide a base for the returning Sussex family. As we stand on the precipice of this extraordinary summer convergence, the tension between the traditionalists who demand total exile for those who criticize the institution and the conciliationists who seek a quiet path to family unity has reached a fever pitch, setting the stage for a confrontation that will test the very foundations of the modern British monarchy. The shifting tides of this royal saga now lead us directly into the heart of a brewing institutional crisis, where the silent aesthetic warfare of social media photographs materializes into a physical, high-stakes collision on British soil. As summer advances, the theoretical debates surrounding the exile of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are being abruptly replaced by concrete logistical arrangements that have sent shockwaves through the senior echelons of the monarchy, igniting a fierce internal civil war between the competing factions of the palace. To truly understand the immense gravity of what is about to transpire in July, one must look far beyond the superficial veneer of a brief family visit or a routine charitable appearance, as this upcoming crossing of the Atlantic represents nothing less than a calculated, full-scale rehabilitation strategy that threatens to dismantle years of carefully constructed boundaries. For a considerable duration, the prevailing public narrative suggested that the self-exiled couple remained firmly on the periphery, permanently detached from the sovereign core after their highly vocal criticisms of the institution, yet the recent actions of King Charles tell a vastly different, far more complicated story of paternal vulnerability and institutional concession. Highly reliable sources close to the royal household have confirmed that the king has extended an extraordinary olive branch by offering his younger son and his family dedicated apartments within a historic royal residence, a gesture that many seasoned palace courtiers view not as a standard act of hospitality, but as a monumental surrender that completely compromises the firm stance originally established at the Sandringham summit, while early rumors pointed toward the secluded and highly secure confines of St. James's Palace as the likely location for this temporary base, a venue that would have minimized public friction and kept the Sussexes away from the primary operational hubs. Recent whispers from the heart of the court suggest that rooms within Buckingham Palace itself are back on the table. This astonishing development has ignited an intense, deeply resentful fury within Kensington Palace, where Prince William stands as the unyielding leader of the Palace Hawks, a faction that firmly believes that once an individual chooses to systematically trash the monarchy for commercial gain, the door must remain permanently shut. The Prince of Wales has watched with growing alarm as his father adopts a highly conciliatory, dove-like approach toward a son who has publicly branded his own family as cold-hearted, trapped, and complicit in the media destruction of outsiders. Viewing this sudden re-platforming as a catastrophic failure of sovereign leadership, the bitterness between the two brothers is no longer a mere matter of emotional estrangement. It has evolved into a fundamental disagreement over the strategic survival of the crown itself, with William arguing that rewarding betrayal with luxurious palace accommodations establishes an incredibly dangerous precedent that will haunt the monarchy for a generation. Every time the Prince and Princess of Wales attempt to execute a flawless, disciplined public relations campaign centered on duty, tradition, and stability, their efforts are instantly overshadowed by a counter-offensive from California, a pattern that William fears will become an uncontrollable daily reality if Harry is permitted to re-establish a permanent physical foothold within the royal estate. The tactical anxiety within William's camp is rooted in the hard-earned knowledge that the Sussexes do not operate by the traditional rules of royal anonymity, but instead utilize every single interaction, every proximity to majesty, and every physical backdrop of a historic palace to fuel their global media empire and maintain their commercial relevance in the celebrities' nexus. This profound clash of philosophies is set to manifest in a highly visible manner during the midsummer days, particularly as the public learns of the highly unusual and sudden closure of Althorp House, the ancestral home and final resting place of Diana, Princess of Wales, which has mysteriously blocked all public bookings for specific dates in July, indicating that a deeply emotional, highly symbolic pilgrimage is being integrated into this return to fully grasp the psychological warfare underpinning these events. One must examine the ingenious yet troubling marketing strategy that the Duchess of Sussex has deployed with regard to her young children, Archie and Lilibet, a strategy that stands in absolute diametric opposition to the protective framework established by the Wales household. When the Sussexes dramatically exited the royal family more than 6 years ago, they loudly proclaimed to the world that their primary motivation was to shield their children from the intrusive, commercialized glare of the media, promising to give them a normal, private upbringing far removed from the predatory lenses of the paparazzi. Yet, A rigorous analysis of their behavior over the subsequent years reveals a highly sophisticated exploitation of what marketing experts refer to as the curiosity gap, a content creation methodology that deliberately manipulates public interest by withholding just enough visual information to drive global fascination to a fever pitch. By consistently showing their children from behind, capturing only the tops of their heads, focusing on blurry holiday snapshots, or utilizing their personal stories as primary content for lucrative multi-million-dollar streaming documentaries, the Sussexes have unintentionally converted their own offspring into incredibly valuable, high-scarcity commodities. This artificial withholding of information does not protect a child's privacy, rather. It creates an intense, ravenous market demand, ensuring that the very first clear, high-resolution photograph of these children walking down a British street will be worth an absolute fortune to global media outlets. As a direct consequence of this strategy, the moment the Sussex family steps off the plane for the Invictus Games anniversary celebrations in Birmingham, a wild, uncontrollable media-feeding frenzy will erupt on Fleet Street. With every freelance photographer in the country scrambling to capture the elusive multi-million-dollar shot, contrast this high-stakes commercial volatility with the quiet, highly effective strategy that Prince William and Princess of Wales inherited and refined from the painful lessons of the late 1990s, an approach that successfully decoupled modern royal childhood from the dangers of the paparazzi market. Following the tragic events of 1997, a strict, formalized agreement was brokered between the palace and the mainstream British press, establishing a system of controlled access in exchange for complete privacy during the school term and private family moments. Under this disciplined framework, William and Catherine provide high-quality, clear, official photographs of George, Charlotte, and Louis on major milestones such as birthdays, the first day of school, and major national celebrations, completely satisfying the public's natural curiosity and eliminating the financial incentive for intrusive photography. Because the global media already possesses an abundance of clear, smiling, high-resolution images of the Wales children, a blurry, long-lens paparazzi shot of Prince George walking down a public street has virtually zero commercial value, effectively neutralizing the threat to his daily safety and allowing him to experience a remarkably stable, well-adjusted childhood. By rejecting this tried-and-tested blueprint in favor of a modern social media model, the Sussexes have trapped themselves in a paradox where their public declarations of a desire for privacy are continuously contradicted by the reality of the intense public curiosity they actively cultivate. The profound irony of this situation is not lost on Prince William, who views his brother's impending return not as a genuine, heartwarming family reunion, but as a calculated public relations exercise designed to cloak the Sussex brand in the ancient, prestigious dignity of the British crown while simultaneously flouting the very rules that keep the institution secure. As this intricate multi-layered saga reaches its ultimate climax, the deep institutional fissures within the House of Windsor are no longer hidden behind palace walls, spilling instead into a wider crisis of public confidence that could fundamentally threaten the long-term survival of the British monarchy. The true tragedy of the current situation lies in the profound statistical reality facing King Charles, whose sovereign tenure has coincided with a steady and highly alarming decline in overall public approval for the crown, a trend that many seasoned constitutional experts attribute directly to a perceived failure of strong, decisive leadership. Recent, highly comprehensive polling published by major national outlets indicates that public support for the monarchy has slipped dramatically from a comfortable 65% down to a highly volatile 55%, a historic drop that places the crown on the precipice of a dangerous psychological barrier. This unprecedented erosion of national loyalty is not a random fluctuation of public mood. It is the direct, bitter consequence of how the palace has repeatedly mismanaged its most significant internal scandals, prioritizing short-term familial conciliation over the unyielding demands of public accountability and moral clarity. For the British public, the king's soft, accommodating approach toward Prince Harry is seen as part of a deeply troubling pattern of behavior, echoing the highly controversial and widely condemned attempts to quietly rehabilitate Prince Andrew following his catastrophic legal and personal disasters. The public watched with growing resentment as the Duke of York was consistently brought back into the family fold, invited to high-profile holiday services, and shielded by a massive multi-million-pound legal settlement that Charles himself reportedly facilitated. A strategy of forced normalization that left many citizens feeling completely gaslighted by their own sovereign. Now, as Prince William watches his father repeat this exact same conciliatory mistake with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the Prince of Wales is gripped by a profound, agonizing sense of frustration, knowing that the institutional damage caused by these decisions will ultimately land squarely on his own shoulders when he inherits the throne. William's firm stance as a palace hawk is rooted in a clear-eyed understanding of the modern political landscape, where an institution that relies entirely on a delicate triad of popular support, constitutional function, and immense inherited wealth cannot afford to look weak, hypocritical, or easily manipulated by external forces. Many ordinary citizens fail to realize that the ultimate survival of the monarchy rests on an incredibly complex legal and financial foundation, primarily tied to the staggering wealth of the Crown estate. A vast portfolio of land and assets valued between 13 and 15 billion pounds that remains inextricably bound to the British state. To fully abolish the monarchy would require an untangling of this monumental financial web, so legally treacherous and economically disruptive that it serves as an almost indestructible shield against total Republican revolution. Yet a crown that rules over a deeply indifferent or actively hostile population of less than 50% approval is a crown that has lost its true moral authority to govern. By surrendering to the emotional and logistical demands of the Sussex household, King Charles is inadvertently signaling to the world that the rules of royal duty and exile are entirely negotiable. A fatal concession that completely undermines the sacrifices made by working royals who continue to quietly serve the nation amidst their own profound personal and health struggles. The immediate battlefield for this structural crisis will materialize the very moment the Sussexes settle into their lace apartments this July. A high-stakes residency that will test the absolute limits of royal protocol and commercial boundary enforcement. Courtiers are already warning that the true measure of this royal surrender will be revealed not through official press releases, but through the subtle, highly coordinated monetization strategies deployed by the Sussex brand during their brief stay on British soil. The ultimate fear within the Prince of Wales's camp is that the Duchess of Sussex will utilize the historic, prestigious backdrops of a royal residence to fuel her global digital lifestyle and commercial endeavors, turning her temporary stay into a massive, highly synchronized branding exercise. The public will be watching with eagle eyes to see if every outfit worn by the Duchess is instantly cataloged for global consumption, or if her digital lifestyle platform launches promotional campaigns that indirectly capitalize on her physical proximity to the sovereign core. If the Sussexes choose to behave with absolute dignity and restraint, refraining from utilizing their palace residency as fresh content for their global media empire, it could be argued that King Charles executed a calculated risk that preserved a fragile family peace without completely destroying institutional boundaries. However, given the highly disruptive and calculated manner in which this entire return was leaked to the media, dropped right in the middle of the monarchy's most sacred annual showpieces like Trooping the Color and Royal Ascot, there is virtually zero optimism within the palace walls that this visit will pass without maximum disruption. This highly calculated media maneuver felt deeply personal to many senior royals. A deliberate attempt to hijack the national narrative during the 1 week of the year where the working monarchy completely commands the spotlight, proving that the Sussexes still possess the power to dictate the terms of engagement from across the ocean. The subsequent frantic pushback from the king's office, suggesting that the monarch was essentially bounced into this arrangement through emotional blackmail and that his summer schedule may suddenly render him too busy to meet his younger son, reveals a court in a state of absolute, chaotic paralysis. This public spectacle of a father claiming to be too busy to see his own grandchildren, while simultaneously granting them luxurious accommodations within his primary palace, is a masterclass in institutional dysfunction. A bizarre compromise that satisfies absolutely no one and alienates both traditionalists and reformists alike. As the calendar counts down to this extraordinary midsummer convergence, the British public is left to contemplate a fractured dynasty that appears radically incapable of charting a unified, disciplined path forward into the modern era. What began as a simple, heartfelt celebration of Father's Day, marked by competing photographs and contrasting aesthetics, has successfully pulled back the curtain on a profound existential struggle for the very soul of the